Brothers and sisters of the Warhammer universe, welcome back to Tortuga's Grim Rosaline. My name is Jeff, and today I'm going to show you how I paint a Grimdark Vashtorr The Arkifane. We're halfway through the month of October, getting close to the greatest holiday ever, Halloween, where my wife and I will be going down to Universal Orlando to celebrate our beloved daughter, Summer Rosaline, doing Halloween horrors and the stuff that we usually love to do around this time of the month. But before that, I still have a couple videos to get through with you, including my 1-year anniversary from starting, which should be coming out next week or the week after. Before we do all that, I need you to do those YouTube things that you do so well down below. Click like, share, subscribe. And now that we've got all that out of the way, let's do this. So here's a list of all the paints that we'll be using on this build. We're going to start off with Vallejo's Game Color Succubus Skin. We started off priming this model with gray from Vallejo, and now we are airbrushing Succubus Skin. So I will always try to, when I'm doing any type of flesh, do an airbrush over a regular brush paint. I feel that it comes off looking much cleaner, and for me it's way easier to get the initial flesh and highlight tones in. Next up is Vallejo's Game Air Dwarf Skin. I'm going to use the dwarf skin to do my initial flesh highlights. I go at about a 45-degree angle, spraying down to get anywhere that the light would be touching. And I am doing light quick sprays from above to make sure that that highlight is blending in nicely and not a thick coating overpowering. Next up is Vallejo's Model Color Ivory. I'm using the ivory as my final highlight airbrush to the skin. I'm doing it either directly from above to maybe 15 degrees spraying down. Again, light quick bursts. We want this as a gradual highlight, not an overpowering layer. Up next is Citadel's Druchii Violet. My final airbrush is going to be Druchii Violet, and what I'm doing with this is I'm going to start spraying from about the elbows down to the hands and from the knees to the ankles. My goal is to gradually make the flesh areas darker the further down it goes, and with washes this is a great way to do this, especially with an airbrush. Next is Winsor & Newton's Lamp Black and Magenta. So I made a dark purple oil wash here. My goal is to cover the entire flesh areas with this, and as you can see while I'm painting this, the oils go right into all the striations of the muscles and all the crevices going into the body, especially where wires and rods are going in and out of his flesh. Next is Vallejo's Model Air Gold. So we're going to be using the gold to paint all of the armor plates on Vashtorr, and I am purposely using an airbrush over a regular paint because I want the thinness. As you can see while I'm painting, you can still see the undertones from all the airbrush colors underneath the plates. I think it gives a nice effect on there, and we'll do a couple layers to bring the gold out more, but that'll still show. With all the armor plates finished, I think it's looking really nice so far. Next up is Vallejo's Model Air Copper. And even with Vashtorr The Arkifane, we are not escaping the dreaded chaos trim. So we're going to use that copper and we're going to go around all of the armor plating trim. And we're going to use 2 coats on this to really make it pop. I don't know if I should be saying make it pop for chaos, but I did. And now that we let that oil wash dry for a while on the skin, we can start taking our Q-tip with mineral spirits and lightly start going over areas on the muscles that we want to be more highlighted. And again, you want your Q-tip to be barely damp with mineral spirits. We don't want this fully wet, otherwise you're going to remove all the wash that you put on. We're still early in our painting, but as we can see here, Vashtorr is coming along really nicely. Next is Vallejo's Model Air Gunmetal and Game Air Black. So we're going to be using this mixture of 3 parts dark gunmetal to 1 part black, and we're going to be painting all of the metallics on Vashtorr, including the talons off the wings and the hammer. And of course, just like everything we do, it's going to be 2 thin coats. And allow me to introduce you to our new adopted cat, Creamsicle. Up next is Citadel's Leadbelcher and Thinner. We're going to use the Leadbelcher to help make all of the detailed pieces of the metallics stand out against the dark gunmetal that we just painted. As you can see here, we're doing the insignias on the wings as well as any of the cog pieces, and we'll be doing the same throughout the rest of Vashtorr's body. And with a quick 360, Vashtorr is coming along awesome. Next is Vallejo's Model Air Gunmetal. We're going to use the dark gunmetal to paint all the highlighted areas of the definition on the exhaust pipes on Vashtorr's back. We're going to do 2 thin coats of this to help bring the definition and make them really stand out compared to the dark areas of the exhaust. We're also going to use the dark gunmetal to paint his tail going from his upper back all the way down to the ground except for the blade tip. And as we can see, we are definitely making progress, and with every coat we do, he's looking better and better. Up next is Vallejo's Model Air Chrome. We're going to use the chrome to paint all of the piston rods throughout Vashtorr's body and on the wings, as well as doing highlights to the tail and on any of the metallic areas except for the exhaust. Next is Vallejo's Model Color German Gray and Thinner. So we're going to use the German Gray to paint his horns, his hooves, and all of the tubing around his body. And of course, we're going to be doing 2 thin coats of this to really bring it in and make it look rich. And don't worry if you slightly go over or smudge any of the paints onto another area. We can always do touch-ups. The only things I try to very hard not to smudge onto is the flesh tones. Up next is Citadel's Retributor Armor and Thinner. So we're going to be using the Retributor Armor on all of the gold pieces on the hammer. We want to make sure this stands out apart from the armor plating and the wings. And of course, we're going to be doing 2 thin coats to really make this Retributor pop. Next is Vallejo's Game Air Bonewhite. So we're going to be using the Bonewhite to paint the teeth that are hanging off of the armor body plates, the bones that protrude from his flesh, and the little horns around his face. And again, it might sound like a broken record, but it's always important. We're going to do 2 thin coats to really bring out that white. Up next is ABT 502's Dust. So we're going to be taking a very little bit of dust on our paintbrush tip, and we're going to use this to gradually brush in the highlighting to the flesh areas. As you can see here, I'm really focusing on the face, but you can use this for any highlight areas on any of the muscle structures of his body. Next is Vallejo's Model Air Mahogany. We're going to be using the Mahogany to paint the handle of the Warhammer. And you're going to notice that there are crack areas in the Warhammer handle. Go ahead and avoid those areas. We're going to fill those in with a much higher color to make it look like almost flames and lava are coming out of that. Next is Vallejo's Model Air Light Gray. We're going to use the light gray to paint all of the broken rocks on the base that Vashtorr is standing on. Up next is Winsor & Newton's Cadmium Red and Cadmium Orange. So this is my oil wash version of Fugan Orange, and I'm going to be using this on his eyes, on the vents on the side of the Warhammer, as well as the vents on the exhaust stacks on his back, as well as the cracks on the hammer itself and on the handle. And I will be going over these multiple times just to really bring out that color and make it look like it is glowing. Next is Winsor & Newton's Lamp Black. So this is my oil wash version of Nuln Oil, and I always use this on all of my metallics. So as you can see here, I'm going to be applying this in, and you can see the oils going into all the nooks and crannies, all the detailed areas of everything that's metallic. And just like on the skin, I am doing a generous amount of oil wash. And rule of thumb, I always will, unless I'm only trying to hit a detailed area. And after letting a miniature sit for about 10 minutes, I usually look it over, and if anything looks too dark from my oil wash, I just take a Q-tip, I brush it up, and I lighten that area. Up next is Winsor & Newton's Lamp Black and Burnt Sienna. So this is my oil wash version of Argax Earthshade, and I'm going to use this to go over all of the gold areas as well as the wooden areas of the handle. And I'm going to use this to go over the light gray rocks on the ground to give it a much dirtier, darker texture. Up next is Vallejo's Model Air Chrome. So we're going to go back over with the chrome. We're going to retouch up all of our highlighted areas and the blades both on the wings and the hand, just to kind of re-bring out after all of the shading and washes. And remember, we're not putting chrome on the exhaust system. Up next is Citadel's Retributor armor and thinner. With all of the shading and washes done, we're now going to go with the Retributor armor, and we're going to use these on all of the spikes on the wings and any of the metallic areas on Vashtorr's body. And of course, we're going to be doing 2 thin coats to really bring out that Retributor armor color. Up next is Vallejo's Model Air Chrome and Model Air Copper. So we're going to be using a 1-to-1 copper to chrome to use as a highlight to all of the areas that we painted copper. This is going to include all the copper on the wings, all of the trim around all the body armor, the blade on the back of the tail, and the claws, the back of the claws on the left hand. And just like anything we're doing with highlighting, we're going to look to see where the light is going to hit first, and that's where we want to try to start making the brightest areas and work from there. And with all the metallics and highlights done, Vashtorr the Arkifane is one step closer to being complete in all his glory. Next is Villainy Inc.'s Carrion Crimson. So we're going to be using Carrion Crimson to really bring out the irritated areas of Vashtorr's body where any metallic is being plugged into or cables are going in and out of his flesh. And we're definitely going to be doing several coats of this. You always want to let this sit and dry in between coats, otherwise you're just going to be moving it around. I love Villainy Inc. One thing you need to know is before you use any of these enamels, you need to vigorously shake the hell out of these. Even get a ball bearing or one of those mixing machines. Next is Citadel's Blood for the Blood God. And you know what I'm going to say, you can't have Grimdark without a whole lot of blood, and Blood for Blood God's going to give it to you. We're going to use the Blood for Blood God on the talons and on anything that we're going to be having on the base, like skulls. And there you have it, a Grimdark Vashtorr the Arkifane. Looking like a nightmare that came out of one of Metallica's songs telling you that it might be under your bed, in your closet, or in your head. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you might have picked up something new that you can use on one of your future projects. And like I always say, Grim for the Grim Rosaline.